Welcome to this week's Team Intelligence Hints and Tips updates to help you create a unified, high-performing team. This week what I wanted to share with you is something that's quite relevant at the moment with us going through some tough economic times. And what I particularly wanted to share with you is what great leaders ask their team in these tough times. Tony Robbins once said that the quality of questions you ask yourself will determine the quality of your outcomes or your results. So bringing that back to how that relates to you is the quality or the questions that you ask your team in the tough times also determines the quality of your outcome because you're responsible for the team's performance. So this video, what I wanted to do is to help you with how to actually ask those great questions and what great questions to ask. Because what it does is it puts you in the box seat of facilitating the change and driving your team forward. Engaging now is key. Team engaging is key. The time and the period of leading by fear is very much dead. I'm sure many of you know that, and I respect you for knowing that. And for those that it's a different paradigm shift, I should say, is that I welcome you to watch on and to discover what the other leaders in the world are actually asking of their teams and seeing if there's something you perhaps could do differently with your team to achieve different results. Because really what it boils down to is in tough, stressful times, your team will actually respond to that stress and that pressure differently. Now, the reason why that is the external pressures such as the economic conditions, the industry stats, whatever it is, they don't have any control over that. So really what they do have control over is their mindset, and that's an internal focus that they have, and that's what they purely do have 100% control over. Simple fact is, if they change the mindset, they change their results. So your job as the team leader is not to force the change, but to actually facilitate the change. And that's what we're going to look at in this next part of the video. So in this part, what I want to do is to quickly share with you what it's going to look like in your team where they're going to be struggling with meeting their KPIs, meeting their targets, whether you be a marketing, sales team, whatever your team actually requires of the results of them. So there's three main areas that we will be looking for. The first one is a mindset of fear. The second mindset is a mindset of where they're focusing, and the third mindset, which needs to be changed, is their comfort zone level. So looking at the first one of fear, the typical symptoms of someone who's driven by a fear mindset is if they're in sales, so it'll be a loss of clients or it might be a loss of their job. So what we want to do there is to actually change their mindset to be the reverse of that, and instead of it being external of what they can't control, needs to become internal of what they can control. And another way of looking at that is, instead of being at effect in the world, how can they actually respond? That's the difference. It's not reacting, it's responding. The second mindset, focus, what they'll be focusing on if they have a fear mindset is they'll be focusing on low results, their past performances, and they'll be losing self-belief. So what the key here is to actually turn that around, and the new mindset should be looking at things like what needs to change to achieve more. They need to focus back on the belief that they're in the role for a reason, and they need to focus on the small wins to build that confidence back up to go start chasing the big wins. The comfort zone is fairly self-explanatory. It's, as human beings, we are creatures of habit, and we will choose the path of least resistance. That's just how we're built. So really what it's about discovering new possibilities. That's the new mindset. And the next part of this video, I'm going to run you through the actual questions to use for your team and these scenarios. So let's start by looking at the fear mindset. So your team will be driven by fear at the moment. They're in tough economical conditions. The targets aren't being met. They're focusing on what the gap is at the moment. So these questions are key to ask them to help them facilitate change in their own mind. Now let's go back to 101 coaching, or the rules of coaching and effective transformational change within your team. The first question that they have to answer yes to is, are they willing to change? If they're not willing to change, there is no point trying to coach them. They need to make that decision for themselves. So having said that, let's get started. So the first question that I'd be asking a client in this situation is, what are you focusing on right now to believe this fear? Believe that they're not good enough for their job, that they can't hit their targets. Get them to explain to you in their map of the world why that is the case. Another question to use is, what evidence do you have right now that this will actually happen? And what you'll actually find is that they'll start to list down evidence that appears in their mind as real, but it's actually false. And I'm sure you've heard the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real. And that's generally where the human mind works. If it's not an actual bus going to hit you, there is no actual fear, it's just imagined fear. The next question you could ask is, what has to happen for this to be true? So if they're saying that, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, okay, well, what has to happen for that to actually occur? And what happens then is the conscious mind focuses on that, and then you can make a plan of going in the other direction. Another great question, which is a very powerful advanced coaching question, but I wanted to share it with you anyway because I guarantee you will get great results, is it tricks the unconscious mind into bringing what is unconscious into the conscious, essentially bringing up the crap to the top. You can then deal with that. And the question is this: what are you choosing to focus on that if you, no, actually, let me rephrase that. What are you choosing not to focus on that if you did focus on would get you closer to your goals? Let me say that again. What are you choosing to not focus on that if you did focus on would actually get you closer to your goals? That's a really powerful one. The next lot of questions I wanted to share with you is for focus related issues. So if they're focusing on a lack of targets, a lack of sales, a lack of meetings, whatever it is, these questions are key for those types of coaching sessions with your team. First question I would ask is, what have you done so far to achieve the results that you've achieved? The next question is, what have you not done so far that you could do to change those results? The next question, what are you doing instead of doing the things you know you should be doing? And that's where you'll find things like procrastination and making up excuses comes into it. The next lot of questions is all about breaking out of their comfort zone. So let's look at these. First question I would ask them is, how willing are you to try new things that might not feel comfortable to begin with, but know that you will actually make you more comfortable in the long term? Another great question to ask about breaking out of the comfort zone is, what is stopping you right now from doing these things that you know you need to be doing? Another great question is, what is one thing you could do right now that would move you towards your goals? That's what we call Kaizen questioning, or a sort of step-by-step, really laser focus of, instead of them focusing on what's going bad, it's just one thing that can turn their focus away from what's not working to what could actually be working to what will work to then closer to their goals. So there's a set of questions that I would use with clients in this particular scenario, especially in these tough economic times. What really comes down to it now is you as the team leader, you've got two options. To take action, you can either outsource this type of service of coaching and training to a business like Boas and Associates, that's what we specialize in, or you could take on the responsibility yourself. As a coach and trainer, I would recommend that as a team leader, you actually do some sort of training to understand the coaching process and the reasons why we do particular coaching techniques when we do, and why we train on particular things when we do. Because by understanding the human mindset is when you know then to engage in a particular technique or questioning style to get a particular result. So I trust that's been of value today. If you're interested to know what other questions and things we use in our team intelligence model, please get in touch with us. Our email address is info@boasandassociates.com, or give us a call. The details are at the end of the video. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.